Siapa yang ada kat dalam? Siapa yang Norbik? Tak ada. Prof Norbik tak ada, Datuk. Okay. Okay. From diplomatic corps. Okay. Norbik tak ada. Ni ada kan? Okay, alright. Okay. Okay. Alright. Okay. Alright. Dah announce. Apa tu? Announcing the arrival of Honorable Professor Emerita Datuk Dr. Asma Ismail Ibn Sina, Professorial Chair in Medicine, IIUM, accompanied by Professor Dr. Muhammad Nizar Hamidun, Professor Dr. Abdul Aziz Birgud, Professor Dr. Haslinda Abdullah, and honorable representatives from diplomatic corps. Standing for the national anthem. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, please be seated. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Rabbi shrah li sadri wa yassir li amri wahlul 'uqdatam min lisani yafqahu qawli. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Wassalatu wassalamu ala ashrafil anbiya'i wal mursaleen wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. In the name of Allah, most gracious, most merciful. Praise be to Allah, the cherisher and the sustainer of the worlds, and blessings be on our Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, his family, and his companions. Honorable Professor Emerita Datuk Dr. Asma Ismail Ibn Sina, Professorial Chair in Medicine, IIUM. Professor Dr. Muhammad Nizar Hamidun, Chairman of the UPM Council of Research Institute, University Putra, Malaysia. Honorable representatives from Diplomatic Corps, Professor Dr. Abdul Aziz Birgud, Dean, International Institute of Islamic Thought and Civilization, ISTAC-IIUM, Professor Dr. Haslinda Abdullah, Director, Institute for Social Science Studies, IPSAS, UPM, honorable physical and virtual guests, ladies and gentlemen, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, and a very good morning. I, Dr. Nur Ain Norman, the Master of Ceremony of today, would like to welcome you all to the 4th Distinguished Lecture Series on Youth Wellbeing and the MOU signing ceremony between ISTAC-IIUM and IPSAS-UPM. For your information, this program is organized to generate awareness of the pressing issues related to youth well-being and their societal and responsibilities, and to cultivate ideas and solutions to its problems. The Distinguished Lecture Series provides a platform for leaders, scholars, and societal players to share their thoughts and views on youth issues and challenges. Before we roll on the welcoming speech, I would like to request Ustaz Osman Nordin, Religious Officer of ISTAC-IIUM, to bless our event with the recitation of dua.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. Bismillahir rahmanir rahim. Alhamdulillahi rabbil alamin. Wassalatu wassalamu ala ashrafil anbiya'i wal mursalin wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. Allahumma inna nas'aluka fawatihal khair wa khawatimah wa jawami'ahu وأوله وظاهره وباطنه والدرجات العلى من الجنة آمين. اللهم إنا نسألك خير المسألة وخير الدعاء وخير النجاح وخير العمل وخير الثواب وخير الحياة وخير الممات. وثبتنا وثقل موازيننا وحقق إيماننا وارفع درجاتنا واغفر خطيئاتنا ونسألك الدرجات العلى من الجنة. Oh Allah, we beg you to make our requests as the best of our supplications. We beg you for the best success, the best duty, and the best rewards. Oh Allah, we beg you to make our scales heavy with rewards. Make us patient in our actions, passionate in our works, dedicated in our jobs, knowledgeable in our fields, humble in our behavior, strong in our faith, compassionate to our subjects, and tolerant to our differences. O Allah, inspire us with good ideas, protect us from the evils of ourselves, protect us from any calamities, and teach us from your infinite knowledge what we do not know. Allahumma inna nas'aluka khayra ma ati, wa khayra ma naf'al, wa khayra ma na'mal, wa khayra ma batana, wa khayra ma zahara, والدرجات العلى من الجنة آمين. اللهم ألف بين قلوبنا وأصلح ذات بيننا واهدنا سبل السلام ونجنا من الظلمات إلى النور وجنبنا الفواحش ما ظهر منها وما بطن. Merciful Allah, we have planned our days with many actions to benefit Islam, the Ummah, and this university. Please accept from us. Grant us blessing and mercy, and guide all university management committee members, deans, directors, staff, and students to right path with your mercy and rahmah. At this moment, we beg you to keep showing us the path to a fruitful action and discussions, and guide us in removing our shortcomings, which we beg you, O Allah, for your mercy and forgiveness. اللهم اجعل جمعنا هذا جمعا مرحوما وتفرقنا من بعده تفرقا معصوما ولا تجعل اللهم فينا ولا معنا ولا من يتبعونا شقيا ولا مطرودا ولا محروما. ربنا آتنا في الدنيا حسنة وفي الآخرة حسنة وقنا عذاب النار. وصلى الله على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم والحمد لله رب العالمين.
Amin ya Rabbal Alameen. Thank you, Ustaz Osman. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, may I now invite Honorable Dean of ISTAC-IIUM, Professor Dr. Abdul Aziz Birgut, to deliver his welcoming speech.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh. Honorable Professor Emerita Datuk Dr. Ismail Ibn Sina, Professorial Chair in Medicine, IIUM, Professor Dr. Muhammad Nizar Hamidun, Chairman of the UPM Council of Research Institute, respected University Management Committee, honorable representatives from diplomatic corps and embassies, Professor Dr. Haslinda Abdullah, Director, Institute for Social Science Studies, IPSAS UPM, honorable guests, ladies and gentlemen, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh, and good morning to everyone. Those who are with us here at ISTAC and those who are following in our ISTAC TV channel in the YouTube. First of all, I would kindly like to welcome and greet all participants in the 4th Distinguished Lecture Series on Youth Well-Being, organized by IPSAS UPM and ISTAC-IIUM. Alhamdulillah, today our guest speaker is none than Professor Datuk Dr. Asma Ismail, Ibn Sina Professorial Chair in Medicine, IIUM, immediate past President of Academy of Sciences Malaysia, and Science Advisor to PM and Nation. Brothers and sisters, ladies and gentlemen, we are delighted to have Prof. Asma with us today to deliver this 4th lecture. For your information, brothers and sisters, ladies and gentlemen, we started a year ago our collaboration with IPSAS UPM on the area of enhancing the well-being of the youth. And one of the activities that we are doing is this distinguished lecture. It started more than a year ago with a lecture delivered by His Highness, the Crown Prince of Selangor, followed by a lecture delivered by our Professor Emeritus Tan Sri Zulkifli Abdul Razak, the rector of IIUM, then followed by a lecture by Hana Yu, the Minister of Youth and Sports of Malaysia here, and today we are having our Professor Asma. Brothers and sisters, this collaboration between IPSAS and ISTAC is not only meant to have this distinguished lecture, but to have strategic collaboration where we deal with this area of youth well-being from different perspectives, whether economic, social, cultural, religious, and other areas which interests the youth. And also, today, alhamdulillah, we'll be signing an MOU between IPSAS and ISTAC to move forward in this strategic collaboration, which will see research related to youth well-being and also other activities where we engage the youth and we engage people. Brothers and sisters, our topic today is a very important topic as we are moving to introduce to our youth, to our scholars, to our students, to our researchers, how to move forward with all what's happening in the world today and the impacts of technology, artificial intelligence. I think Professor Asma will be talking to us today about how youth, scholars, lecturers, NGOs, and all the people can elevate their mind to deal not only with the local issues, but to develop that global mindset, global abilities and competencies, really to work locally, but we are aware of what's happening in the world. So brothers and sisters, Alhamdulillah, we are here today to witness this or to participate in this fourth distinguished lecture. In closing, let me once again thank you all for coming to ISTAC here and thank those who are in the YouTube channel following our lecture today. I would like to thank all the partners from IPSAS, UPM and ISTAC-IIUM here. May God bless you all. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh.
Thank you, Professor Dr. Abdul Aziz, for your wonderful speech. Honorable guests, ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, may I respectfully invite Professor Dr. Muhammad Nizar Hamidun, Chairman of the UPM Council of Research Institute, to deliver his welcoming speech.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh and very good morning. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Honorable Professor Emerita Datuk Dr. Asma Ismail, Ibn Sina, Professional Chair in Medicine, IUM. Honorable Representative from Diplomatic Corps, Professor Dr. Abdul Aziz. I hope I pronounced your name correctly. Dean of International Institute of Islamic Thought and Civilization, ISTAC-IIUM. Professor Dr. Aslinda Abdullah, my friend. Director of Institute of Social Science Studies, IPSAS, UPM. Honorable guests, ladies and gentlemen, here and virtual. Ladies and gentlemen, UPM is honored to be working in collaboration with the International Institute of Islamic Thought and Civilization, ISTAC-IIUM, on the distinguished lecture series on youth well-being. This initiative now is a fourth series, aimed to provide a significant platform for an actual discourse on issue affect youth well-being in diverse perspective. The lecture series is organized by the Institute of Social Science Studies, IPSAS, in collaboration with the Institute of Islamic Thought and Civilization, ISTAC-IIUM. Here is add further in cap of collaboration, we also humble and proud to witness the signing of MOU between UPM and IUM. This MOU aims to strengthen the working relationship between these two permanent institutions. This collaboration will expand to working relationship in the wider area of initiative, include joint host international seminar and colloquium, talk and lecture, and commissioning research project on the topic related to the social science and humanity, including youth well-being. UPM will continue to champion our mission statement, where to make the meaningful contribution to the formation of prosperity and national development and the well-being of human beings through the exploration and dissemination of knowledge. Ladies and gentlemen, before I conclude, I would like to take this opportunity
the Consultative and Anti-Corruption Panel for the Malaysian Anti-Corruption Commission and is the chair for the Planetary Health Action Plan for Malaysia. Professor Emerita Datuk Dr. Asma holds a Bachelor of Science Biology from the University of Nevada, Reno, USA, Masters of Microbiology from Indiana University, USA, and a PhD Cellular and Molecular Biology from University of Nevada, Reno, USA. She received her Honorary Doctor of Science from the University of Glasgow, Honorary Degree Doctor of the University Keele University, and Honorary Doctorate in Literature from Kyoto University of Foreign Studies. Besides being the first female Vice Chancellor of University Science Islam Malaysia and University Science Malaysia, she is also Malaysia's first female Director General of Higher Education, first female President of Academy of Sciences Malaysia, first female to be appointed as the chairperson of the Malaysian Qualification Agency, and the first woman to be the National Science Advisor to the Prime Minister and to the country. A big applause, everybody. She has initiated scientific discoveries which have led to the attainment of 16 patents that are commercialized worldwide, and the rapid diagnostic test for typhoid called Typhidot, advocated by WHO. She has also obtained numerous awards and recognitions, more than 270, for her achievement at national and international levels. Okay, the list is so long and I can't manage to finish it all, but our Honorable Emeritus Professor has such an impressive CV, and I think I'll have to capture this. She was awarded as Tokoh Akademik Negara or National Academic Laureate in 2022, Tokoh Sri Kandi National Award in 2018, and Tokoh Maulid Rasul National Level in 2019. Other awards and recognitions include National Young Scientist Award, National Innovation Award, Distinguished Fellow Academy, Professor Malaysia, and was named in January 2023 by Forbes Asia magazine as among the top 50 women over 50 from Asia Pacific that has reached new heights in contributing to the field of higher education, research and innovation, as well as the policy in the science, technology, innovation, and economy, locally and abroad, for the inspiring next generation. We request the honor of her to be on stage to deliver the fourth distinguished lecture with the title Youth, Wellbeing, and Contribution to the Nation Building, Building Global Mindset.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Salam sejahtera. Very good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very much to the MC for the kind introduction. Professor Dr. Muhammad Nizar Hamidun, the chairman of the UPM Council of Research Institute, honorable representatives from Diplomatic Corps, Professor Dr. Abdul Aziz Bargut, the Dean for International Institute of Islamic Thought and Civilization, or ISTAC, Professor Dr. Haslinda Abdullah, the Director, Institute for Social Science Studies, or IPSAS at UPM, honorable guests. I also would like to acknowledge the philosophers and the scholars of ISTAC, ladies and gentlemen, and of course the postgraduate students who are also listening in, and all the guests who is present here as well as virtually. Thank you very much for coming in and wanting to listen to what I have to say this morning regarding youth well-being and contribution to nation building and basically building the global mindset. Basically, this is what I'll be covering today. What is considered as youth, what is youth well-being, why is it important, what are the factors that will hinder youth well-being and what are the youth afraid of, and how we can ensure youth well-being, the role of youth in nation building, and why there is a need to build this global mindset among the youth. Let me begin by saying the definition of youth can vary depending on the context, the cultural norms, the specific purpose of a given organization, a government, or research study. And basically, when we talk about youth, it refers to the period of life between childhood and adulthood. And United Nations define youth as between 15 to 24 years old. But in Malaysia, we went further in 1997 to define youth as individuals between 15 to 40 years. And then recently, in 2019, the Youth Societies and Youth Development Act was amended and was passed and basically redefined youth for Malaysia from 15 to 30 years. So whatever the definition, I no longer belong to that category, so it doesn't matter now. Okay, so about youth well-being. Youth well-being basically refers to the overall state of health, the happiness and prosperity of the young people during the period of their lives between childhood and adulthood, and it will encompass various dimensions of their lives, including their physical health, their mental health, the social relationship, educational attainment, economic opportunities, and overall life satisfaction. But youth well-being is very important because it is very much intertwined with nation building, and that if you don't take care of the future generation, then nation building will definitely falter. The question is, what are the factors that actually hinder youth well-being? Today, as a scientist, you know, I'm usually data-driven, so you're going to hear lots of data today. Basically, there are 1.8 billion young people between the age of 10 to 24, as in United Nations definition, and this becomes the largest cohort in human history. And young people may make, at the moment now, 25% of the world's population, but they are, ladies and gentlemen, 100% of our future. Right? And meeting their needs will be a huge challenge, but it's also going to be an opportunity if we can make a difference to how we shape the minds of the youth of the future. The question then, before we do that, are they ready to face adulthood? And many feel that they are not ready, and actually the youth is kind of worried about their future. What are they worried about? Number one, they are worried that they might not get the education that they need, all right? 200 million adolescents are out of school worldwide, and with COVID, this number has also increased. And globally, 6 out of 10 children and young people do not meet the minimum proficiency level for reading and for maths, right? Basically, if we look at this data, no country can be successful if nearly half of the population of the young people are unable to read or write. And sometimes it is not about accessibility to higher education or to education, but more like, can they complete the education that they have, right? Because something will happen and they have to quit and will have to leave, right? So they're also worried about employment and that they will not be able to find a job, because around the world, we are not thinking yet as a job creator, but rather still the mindset is as a job seeker. And therefore, every month, 10 million young people reach working age, and some will go on for further education, but many will now enter the workforce. And post-COVID, many of the young are actually now entering the workforce. So in reality, you know, and I know it, that the world is not creating 10 million new jobs every month. That is for sure, okay? So 21.8% of the youth population are not in education, nor employment, nor training. And out of that 21.8%, 76.9% are women. So the competition, as you know, to get a job is going to get fiercer and fiercer each time. And women, more and more, will be left behind. And with the advent of the disruptive technologies brought by Industry 4.0, we will face many unknowns in the future, and basically the key word now is facing predictable unpredictability, and the only constant is change. So youth today are not like us, Professor Aziz. Youth today are technology savvy. and they want to learn future skills for future work. And those that are in school feel that they are not getting the right skills that they can now use in the future for their livelihood. They want to learn digital technology. They want to learn IR 4.0 technologies. They want to learn about green technologies. In short, they need to learn about skills in order to survive the current and the future jobs. So the young are worried that the education that they are receiving today does not provide the kind of skills that they probably would need to be future ready. They are also worried about violence at home, violence online, violence in school because of bullies, violence in the communities, and a young person can have hundreds of friends on social media but no one to turn to when they need a friendly face. Right? Because as you know, they are very much into social media nowadays with Facebook and whatnot. Whatever their problems, they will pour it out in the Facebook rather than having a one-to-one discussion with their parents, right? So they face bullying, harassment, either physically or internet or both, and hundreds and millions of them are facing exploitation, abuse, and violence. Girls are also worried about their future. Girls face prejudice and discrimination, and this discrimination can be biased or unbiased. There's nothing worse than people telling you, what discrimination? We don't discriminate any women. We are okay, right? And yet unbiasedness is happening, all right? What do I mean by that? Just one simple question. In a job interview, right? In a job interview for promotion exercise, let's say there is now a post in Kuantan, IIUM in Kuantan. And here you are being asked this question. To a man, okay, you know this promotion exercise, you have to shift over to Kuantan. Was that okay with you if you take up this job? And what will the man normally say? I'm not stereotyping, but the man will normally say, yeah, I will go there first, but my wife, my family will join me later. You imagine that same question being asked to a woman. Oh yeah, no problem, I will go there first, and my husband, and my children, he will bring them, and later we will join me in. Do you think you will hear that kind of answer from the woman? It's not so easy for a woman to say, don't worry, I'll bring my husband later, and he will shift his job, right? No worry, he will shift his job. So when a woman answers, I can't go to Kuantan at the moment unless you give me some time to get everything together so that I can now go. Oh, no, the job needs to be filled by end of this month. So if you do that kind of stuff, automatically the woman will not get the job. Not because she's not qualified, but because the kind of question you ask, you already stereotype and you already bias towards having not a woman to fill up the job. So this kind of questions that is asked sometimes is unconsciously asked. That this is the kind of problem I think women face a lot more problem, which is unbiased prejudice or unconscious biasness, right? So women, they also face early childhood marriage, and they face life-threatening early pregnancy, and a staggering 650 million girls, this is around the world, were married before their 18th birthday, and therefore many became mothers when they themselves are still children. And 1 out of 3 women will face physical abuse or sexual abuse in her lifetime. So for sure, girls also have to worry about their future. Then we are talking about the tropics. Here we are, countries in the tropics. And the future belongs to the tropics. Why? Because at the current rate of population growth by 2050, more than half of the world's population will now live in the tropics. And by 2050, 2/3 of the world's children, or 67%, will also live in the tropics. So 85% of the world's extreme poor also live in the tropics. And they will continue to remain in poverty since 1 in 5 young people have not completed their elementary education, and most of them, again, are in the tropics. So without education, job-ready skills, 70.9 million young people are unemployed. And this is not including what's happening in the last 2 years under the pandemic situations throughout the world. The young is also concerned about planetary health because they understand that the human and environment are intertwined. You already face problems with planetary health. As you can see, the weather goes crazy all the time. We have heavy rain when it's not supposed to be raining yet, and we have very hot weather nowadays, which is not supposed to be the Malaysian way. But already the weather is going crazy because of climate change. All right, and you must understand that what we do to the earth will boomerang or bounce back to affect human health, whether you like it or not. And so planetary health now becomes a key factor in and what it is basically the understanding that human health and human civilization actually depend on flourishing the natural systems and the wise stewardship of the natural system, which is the earth. So wise stewardship here means careful and responsible management of what has been entrusted by God to our care about Mother Earth, because, ladies and gentlemen, there is no planet B. All right. So, however, today is also the era of Anthropocene, where this is the era where the humans are actually doing so much damage to the earth that the natural systems are being degraded to an extent unprecedented in human history. The young people are also worried about the generation gap. This is a topic that usually people don't discuss. People assume because the ones who are in charge are baby boomers or older. Yeah? So basically, out of the 5 distinct generations in the Malaysian workforce in 2023, only 4 will now be in the workforce. First is the baby boomers. This is only about 13% between 59 to 77 years of age. This is people like me. Okay, of course I'm 29 in my mind, but biologically I have to face facts, right? So baby boomers are between 59 to 77 years of age. Then there's the Generation X. The Generation X, how many of you are Generation X? Between 43 to 58. Hello, I'm going to talk about you. Okay, don't lie. Okay, all right. So that's between 43 to 58. The Millennials, 27 to 42, Millennials. Okay, and Generation Z, 11 to 26. Not bad. Okay. So what's next after Generation Z is going to be Generation Alpha. Generation Alpha is now between 2011, born 2011 to 2025, now under 12 years of age. We have not yet determined what kind of characteristic this Generation Alpha will have. But after Alpha, which is going to be your children of the future or your grandchildren of the future, is Generation Beta. Generation Beta is not born yet. They will start to be born in 2025 onwards. Yeah. So again, we have not yet determined what kind of characteristic Generation Beta will have. But what I want you to see from this data is that more than 50% of the workforce, including the university students, are actually millennials and Gen Z. Do you realize that? Right? And what happened now is that the majority of the bosses are not millennials and Gen Z. Majority of the bosses are Gen X. Right? Majority are Gen X. So basically, Gen X, do you realize or not, as bosses today, that is changing. That the people who are under you is now changing. And you're going to see the kind of difference that they are, because this is where I need to inform university HR, the university top management, IPSAS included, Office of Student Affairs, right, postgraduate office, and all the relevant ministries, agencies, and whatever in the institution of higher learning. You need to take heed of the changing needs of the workforce and the changing needs of the student. Because the students now belong to the Gen Z. They are not like us before, okay? So what are the characteristics and what motivates each of these generation? For as long as we still face a generation gap, we're not going to get youth well-being, right? Because many will be stressed. So look at the millennials or Gen Y. This is anywhere between 27 to 42. They prefer to collaborate All right, and they are also motivated by doing meaningful work. That means the millennials, they like to do things that create impact. They don't want to do things, just for the sake of doing things. They want to do things that create impact. They are digital natives. They understand technology very well. And they grew up with the internet and they have watched technology like virtual reality and all that. And they are amenable to feedback. Gen Y likes to get feedback. Sometimes we, the baby boomers, are worried, that if we give them what it's all about, maybe they get hurt or feelings are hurt and they will not perform. But essentially, Gen Y are amenable, or millennials are amenable to getting feedback. They want to get feedback. And the millennials are also, this is the other thing that probably will irritate the bosses. The millennials, they like to give their opinion. You may not want to hear it, because baby boomers really don't want to hear this kind of opinion. But to the millennials, they have to state their opinion. They cannot shut up. Whatever they feel, they want to say it, all right? And basically, they are very comfortable about doing that, although the people who listen to it may not be comfortable, all right? So, and the millennials are known as the impatient generation because with over 90% of them wanting rapid career progression. They only work in the university for 1 year and they expect to be promoted. Okay, you notice that they want promotion very fast, whereas this will clash big time with bosses who are Gen X and bosses who are baby boomers, because all these bosses want you to go through the mill and no shortcut. Right? Because we say, hey, we had to wait our time, to get promoted. We want to go through, step by step. Then only we get promoted. Why you want to be promoted after 1 year? In bahasa Malaysia, makan asam garam dulu. Because if you have not done that, then we feel that you are not ready for prime time. Okay? But this irritates the millennials. Then you have the Gen Z. The Gen Z is a different kind of breed, because they value social responsibility and diversity. They grow up with immediate access to the internet. You notice that all the babies in the plane, during school holidays, all of them to shut up, they have that Samsung or iPad in their hands. You notice, right? And the parents will also do that to them to shut them up so that we can have a peaceful flight, 1 hour flight. But anyway, they use social media a lot, and they expect to work with modern technology. If you hire the Gen Z now, they assume that when you come into the workforce, they expect that the technology be there for them. And they are born into the digital world. So it makes sense that they expect technology to be interwoven into their jobs. But you must understand, in this university, or most university, we are not in digital transformation. We are computerization, which is different. And the bosses only think about when they say they want to now have new digital management, they are not talking about digital transformation. They are talking let's computerize. This is two different things, right? So basically, again, and the Gen Z, they know they can solve this problem using technology very fast. And they're still wondering why the boss wants to go through this Intel 286, processing, because the bosses are not thinking like them. And they get irritated with that as well. So and of course the Gen Z, they also like to break away from the institutional structure. They take non-traditional approach to education, to finance, to work, because the Gen Z are cashless. Betul tak? Is that right? They are cashless. They go everywhere. Like it boggles my mind. My handbag gets bigger and bigger, but the Gen Z handbags get smaller and smaller. And I'm wondering, what the hell do they carry in that handbag? Only the phone. They only carry the phone because everything else is cashless. And people like me be worried, if you go cashless, because we have to have credit card, we have to have cash in our handbag, all right? Because what if the phone goes off battery? Then how do you pay? All right? What if you now have this makcik and you want pisang goreng and on the street and makcik-pakcik doesn't have the QR code? How do you pay for that pisang goreng? So things like this, I get worried about. But to the Gen Z, they just don't eat it if the makcik-pakcik doesn't have a QR code. All right? So basically, They want stability, they want flexibility, they want a stable income, and they want to work in an environment. They want a stable income, they want to work in a company that can give them money, but they want flexibility. They want to work from home. Can you imagine bosses of Gen X and and the baby boomer? What do you mean work from home? If I don't see your face in the office, I don't think you're working, right? Because of the lack of trust, right? So they are, please remember, the Gen Z, they are well educated, they are empowered because everything with them is taught by Professor Google, and they are entrepreneurial, but they lack wisdom. They lack wisdom, because things are moving too fast for them. And wisdom only comes from experiential learning. So again, in nation building, all this has to be imbibed. Yeah? Basically, Gen Z is also the most difficult to work with. They're also often the most people being fired from the job. All right, because they desire to work in companies that is collaborative, inclusive. They want everything all perfect, but they're happy doing jobs with in the community. They want to do community engagement. They want to do all those things to help the people. And despite being born in the age of smartphone and internet, they communicate with you not face to face, but rather texting. This is kind of annoying to the older people because they think they have no respect, because you know the way they communicate with you is by texting. And they are highly adept at multitasking. They want, okay, this is worse than the millennial. They want what they want and they want it now. This is Gen Z. And Gen Z lack soft skill. They don't understand if they are rude. You know, in an interview, you ask them also a question and then you ask, and then at the end of the day, would you like to ask us anything? You know, that nice phrase that interviewers usually use at the end of the interview for a job. And the Gen Z will say, what's in it for me if I were to work for you? How much money will you pay? Because the next university, you know, postgraduate student, hello, don't go very far. This is postgraduate student interview, right? After at the end of the day, what is it for me, all right? If I were to work for UPM versus USM, you know, UPM, you pay only this much. But USM is paying me like this, you know. Hello, postgraduate is talking like that to you in your interview, right? So this, but they don't understand. To them, this is rational thinking. That they are asking something rational. But to us, in the baby boomers, if we are the one doing the interview, this is rude. You see, already there's misunderstanding, all right? And they also have the mental health problem. You notice that people who jaga HEPA, student affair, and those who become vice chancellor during this time also realize suddenly there is mental health problem. We never have mental health problem before big time when we were running the university before. Now suddenly overnight they have mental health problem and we're wondering why. Suddenly, you know, during COVID time, it's even worse. Mental health problem we have to face, right? So this is the thing. The mental health problem because the Gen Z is always worried about money. They're worried about money because they're worried that the money is never enough because they are used to having devices and they need these devices which is need money, right? So although Gen Z enjoys being with people, they can get along, but when they work, they want to work individually. This also problem with the bosses because you say work in a cluster or work in a group or work in a team. This is what we say as good thing, but to them it's not a good thing because when they want to work individually. You see already there's clashes. So they also believe in responsible for their career and success. They also don't want your help. They're quite arrogant. They want to do the things themselves, right? So basically this is the commonality that I want to put together for those who are in the leadership of the universities. Please understand that this is now the new work trends. The HR and student affairs need to address the generation gap because now both the Gen X, the Gen Y, the Gen Z, they value work-life balance. And you notice that in the institute where I work in USM, I leave at 1 a.m. in the morning and postgraduate students don't leave before me. But today, I leave at whatever I want, like 8 p.m. Postgraduate student already close the lab at 6 o'clock maximum. Most research institutes you walk by is gelap. Hello? Research institute is supposed to be 24 hours lights on because that's where you're doing your work. But now research institute, after 6 p.m., only the lecturers are there if the lecturers are also there. If the lecturers are the new millennial, the lecturers also go home. Right? So this is This is another thing that I think as a baby boomer, I see this vast change, right? And they value work-life balance and collaborative impact, mission-oriented. They prefer to work alone. They want rapid promotion. And that's another thing that very disturbing to baby boomers. There is no organizational loyalty. You notice that people like me will stay with USM and then maybe change to IIUM, you know, but basically we don't hop along. But the new generation, they change jobs very fast. There's no organizational loyalty. But to us, we find, oh my God, they have no, but to them, this is normal because now the new employers want people with more experience. So they will not hire Asma who only work with USM and whatever, because they will hire someone who has worked with 3 or 4 universities, because now that person, according to the new employers, now have more experience, more exposure. Okay? And they value education, but in the non-traditional way. And the Gen Z prefer to take care of the planet for the future generation, which is very good. And the millennials, they want immediate appraisal of the work, and whatever it is, this is the future trend characteristic of the workforce. And this future trend is clashing with the Gen X that prefer result-oriented. They don't want to discuss with you. They don't look over your shoulder. They just give you a job. Okay, be productive. Show me what is it that you have. So we need feedback and evaluation. But for a healthy work environment, the intergenerational collaboration is a must. And we want to bring down walls instead of building walls. So there's a lot of learning, unlearning, relearning, co-learning, and co-creating that needs to be done. So the next question is, what can you do to reduce the worries of the youth? Number one, you have to teach them 21st century skills. And you have to engage the youth in community engagement activity to inculcate, to balance, because they are very technology savvy. You need to balance them back with humanity-centric, nature-based to take care of the planet, and values-driven in order to gain wisdom. And you have to bridge the generation gap, because if you don't bridge, this is going to continue to have misunderstanding and miscommunication. And you also need to prepare for their future with a global mindset, and this involves youth in nation building. Okay, let's start by teaching them about 21st century skill. The talent of the future. So I hope that the educators in the room will understand that today's educators are preparing students for jobs not yet exist, using technologies not yet defined or identified, because we don't know the future. The future is unknown, okay? So basically, from the Academy of Sciences, we say talent for the traditional economy and the talent that we need now to move Malaysia in the Madani economy, whatever, we need from administrators to now become innovators. From linear thinking, which is what we have taught all the graduate students, one cause, one effect. Now you have to see it is not that simple. It is non-linear. It's now systems thinking. You have to see the bigger picture or the ecosystem before you can say what is the cause and what is the effect. From working in closed innovation to now open innovation or collaborative innovation, especially people involved in P&I. Now need to understand what we have been teaching you is that, oh, you have a technology, you have a finding, then you want to now patent, and from that patent you want to commercialize. That's old thinking, people. Right now we are saying don't bring all the way to the product, just have the collaboration, and open innovation is now the way forward. Emphasis on qualification, now you need to shift on employment based on competency, which is knowledge and skill. Not just knowledge alone is not enough. From being a specialist, which is what we all want to be, now, hello, we have to now become multi-specialists, right? And from performance-driven, which is KPI, we now need to go to values-infused and impact-driven, which is a combination of KPI and key intangible performance, or KIP. And having in-silo view, we need to go now to ecosystem view, because at the end of the day, when we move into the unknown, we need to now be able to nurture balanced talent between knowledge and character that is imaginative, that is agile, that is adaptive, that is flexible, that is future-ready, and forever responsive to post-normal times. Basically, let's look at the data. Why I say this. If you look at the change in roles and skills of the future generation, this is rapid advances in technology, in AI, in automation, in robotics. By 2025, which is only 2 years down the road, 97 million new roles is going to emerge with 85 million new jobs. 85 million jobs will now be displaced. But what we are saying is that you see by the top 10 skills of 2025 is going to be analytical thinking, active learning, complex problem solving, critical thinking, being creative and all that. So by 2025, 50% of all employees, including you and me, all need to be reskilled because we have all learned the previous old way of thinking and doing things. And critical thinking, problem solving now becomes the top skills that is now needed. So at the end of the day, the future is not is about being a lifelong learner living in a borderless world. And that's why at MQA I always say why the programs from the university, they need to go beyond 120 credits. It is the people who design the programs think that everything they know, the student must know. And therefore, you go from 120 credit to 140, 170 credit because this is a must. This is a must. The student must know this. The student must know that. You know, because we have to learn that. Hello, think again. What you learn 2 years from now is blasé. This is going to be new technology, new things. So what MQA require from you is 120 credits to graduate. But what you need to teach the student is to be flexible, to be adaptive, to be a lifelong learner. That's what you need to teach the students. Then only they can have all the new thinking and the new ways of doing things, right? So the 21st century skills, before I go into deeper, ask the student the question, what do you remember most during your university education? And they will answer that what they remember most is the learning experience. The question is, did you provide them with that learning experience? It's not about your teaching, hello. It's about the learning experience. All right, this is where now we worried about teaching. This delivery mode must be like this. This is teaching. What we want to wonder is that did the learning happen or not while you're doing all this? And what the students use most, look at COVID time, what the student use most is not the knowledge, it is more of the values. Basically, while IQ is important, emotional quotient, EQ, as well as CI, cultural intelligence, these are intangibles, ladies and gentlemen, are more useful than the actual knowledge that you have, because that's how you want to get along. So basically, you need learning skills, you need digital. When we talk about the future generation, we don't talk about learning from books now. We have to move now to digital literacy skills. Right? You can write, well, still promotional exercise is writing books, but right now nobody's reading books. People are reading now on the E. So it's e-books, if you want to talk about it. So, and then the other thing is flexible education, lifelong and life-wide. What is life-wide? Life-wide education is learning anything and everything. So basically, work of life, skills of life, that is life-wide. So basically, you find that a lot of life-wide skill is found from the YouTube, correct? You can, if you don't know cooking before, you can cook by looking at the YouTube. So the YouTube is actually teaching you a lot of things. So learning, you need learning and innovation skill, digital literacy skill, and career and life skills. So basically, you need to teach the student about flexible, adaptable, respond to change, and lifelong learners. And you notice that skill 1 and skill number 3 can be obtained via community engagement. And that is why in your higher education blueprint, it says that the curriculum for Malaysian education should be, the curriculum should involve community engagement, all right? What do we mean by that? How now, by doing community engagement, it will affect the youth well-being, right? Community engagement will offer the youth and the university students the opportunity to be humanity-centric, to learn about how people live in society, to be nature-based, so that you also learn a lot of indigenous knowledge and local knowledge when you start to go to the community. And it inculcate values and good citizenry in our future generation via voluntarism, experiential learning, service learning. This is all part and parcel to build your wisdom. And it also restores social relevance and obligation to society and reduce the inequity divide by producing now meaningful solutions to via research and innovation to actually serve the marginalized or the bottom billion who makes up more than 2/3 of the world's population. And community engagement basically embrace partnership which is guided by mutual respect. This is the other thing that we want to say. I think you need to use the word respect rather than tolerance. A lot of the time people say, oh yeah, we must inculcate tolerance. No. If you start to inculcate tolerance, you will not build a relationship. Because tolerance means today I tolerate you, tomorrow I get upset, I no longer tolerate you. But mutual respect means you need to understand the culture, how the people think and how the people behave and all that. So no longer talk about, this is the other thing we talk about community engagement, everybody is talking about knowledge transfer. This is not right. Because when you talk about knowledge transfer, you are telling the community, I'm the clever one because I come from the university, and therefore now please use whatever I tell you because I'm the clever one. All right? Please remember, when you start to do learn, unlearn, relearn, co-learn with the community to co-create together, it's a two-way street learning. This is not about one-way street learning anymore. So we want to now talk about knowledge assimilation. Did the community take up the knowledge that you impart to them? And if they do so, then you begin to see knowledge for change. All right? So students from the various disciplines, this is where we want them to work together. From the science, the technology, the arts, humanities, all need to work together with the youth of the community. You guys are also youth, but work together with the youth of the community to provide now solutions to the community. And the experience learned, hopefully, will enhance your wisdom. The other thing is that when performing this community engagement, we want the different ages within the community to actually gain confidence themselves. That's the whole idea. Remember, it's not about community service. I don't know why students keep telling, oh yeah, we're going to this village to do community service. It's not about community service, it's about community engagement. Community engagement is what the universities are all about. We're supposed to teach the people to use the fishing rod, not to give the fish. So that when you leave the community, they are able to survive. All right? So that is the whole idea. And to do that, you have to make them gain confidence in themselves and to co-learn and co-create the solution together with them, and to provide solution to the pressing problem of that community and of that village. It's not a one-size-fits-all for everyone. So we want the youth to have the vision for their future and the new outlook about what they can do, and because it's important that they have the bigger picture and understand the ecosystem. Right, this is where I also want to say about Usrah in action, for example. If you now just tell the students, go to the beach and collect all the plastic and whatnot, cleaning up the beach, without telling the student why they have to do that. To me, this is very important. You pick up the plastic because Malaysia is the third largest plastic polluter of marine water in the world. Did you get what I just said? We are the third largest plastic marine polluter. That means we pollute plastic in the ocean, third in the world. Right? So what is this cleaning of the plastic on the beach if you don't understand the bigger picture that we are throwing all this plastic in the ocean, and this plastic is now coming up to the beach? And we're destroying all the marine and whatnot in the ocean because they are stuck with the plastic. You need to see the bigger picture of what we need to solve. That's why I said non-linear thinking, systems thinking is what we should be teaching the postgraduate now. Not just cause and effect. Oh, you see plastic on the beach, you collect the plastic. And then you say, yeah, I did good today, I clean up the beach. Tomorrow the beach becomes cluttered again. If you don't teach the people and make them understand about polluting the world with plastic, then what's the use? Tomorrow it's going to happen again. So there is a bigger picture that you need to solve, right? So because these ideas are rooted in their own lives, they gain the sense that they have something to contribute to the community, so they learn that they have a voice and can be part of the technological revolution. So that's why when you go into village, you have to work with the people in order to solve the problem, right? And don't let the village people or the community feel left behind. Basically, end game, the people need to feel that they are educated, they are enabled, and they are empowered. These are important things that you need to learn. And of course, to bridge the generation gap, how do we bridge all this gap, right? One is intergenerational mentorship. You have all this lot of misunderstanding and workplace stress can be reduced if we now take care of the intergenerational gap. And to do this, please allow for mentorship program that combine the Gen X with the Gen Millennials and the Gen Z. Because when you combine and ask them to provide solutions together, you will see now the younger employees can now teach the older one about technology and digital trend, while the older one can teach the young one about wisdom and experience. So we need to share that. And you need to now create a flexible work environment. If you understand that the people now value work-life balance, why didn't we create the flexible work environment? Is it because JPA said so? Is it because we cannot, a lot of things that we can? A lot of things have been given as autonomy to the university. The question is whether the university is brave enough to do it. At the end of the day, all right, a lot of the companies are already 3 days working and 2 days work from home. But until and unless you clearly define what is the expectation of people working in the remotely or in the office work, so you set up the mechanism to track productivity in a flexible work setup, then you create trust. And when there's trust, then the whole organization can now go and you can have a proper work-life balance. So this has to be done. So you create awareness program that emphasize more on responsibility, accountability, ethics, and integrity. I think you need to take care of the hardware before you go into the software or the digitalware. If you take care of the hardware, you understand this is not H-A-R-D, this is hardware, H-E-A-R-T. If you now take care of ethics, integrity, and all that, it will now be able to move. Anything, any new technology that comes, you will still face it with integrity, and you will work on ChatGPT, Bard, Google, whatever you have, with ethics. So it's not stopping the student about using ChatGPT, but about teaching the student about the ethics of using technology. I think this is what we need to look into. And I challenge IIUM also, because where is the ethics of using technology from the Islamic perspective? Why can't you have that? Because at the moment now we don't. MQA hanya come up with guidelines, right? So basically, can we come up with IIUM lah, all those philosophers, the scholars, and combine whatever? Okay, that's your job, Prof. Aziz. Anyway, the other one is to promote diversity and inclusivity. Create an inclusive workplace culture where all the workplace means it can be in the lab, it can be in the office, where all generations feel valued and respected, where the diverse perspective and experience are acknowledged and celebrated. So to bridge this generation gap, one needs to adapt to the new while retaining the goodness of the old. So it's not like you throw away everything, but we need to come in with balance. So it is an ongoing process that requires patience, empathy, and a commitment to building bridges rather than brick walls between generations. So basically, we need to be aware of the generation gap. We need to rewrite the narrative as well, because no use for you to be aware what I'm saying today, but you go back, you don't do anything about it. All right, and we cannot have a one-size-fits-all to address the generation gap. So training programs, this is where talent management by HR, all this need to be looked into. It's not the old way of doing things anymore. All right, and training programs must ensure understanding of this generation gap, understanding of diversity and inclusivity. So how to build the mindset, global mindset among the youth? So building this global mindset among the youth, I think, is essential because the world now is borderless. We are all interconnected. So a global mindset will involve awareness and understanding of international issues, of cultures, of perspectives, as well as willingness to engage in the global community. So to do that, it's a multi-faceted approach that requires formal education, combined with experiential learning and exposure to all the diverse perspectives. So hopefully if we can implement all this, we can bring and build the global mindset among the youth. Okay, first things first, broaden the horizon of the youth via international experience. International travel and cultural exchange, I think, is very important if we want to build this global mindset, so that they can experience the different cultures firsthand, attend all the youth program, and of course the university will support. Of course, the main question you're going to ask me, where's the money? And the answer is there's no money, right? So easier said than done. So that's why I think at USIM, when I was there, they have a one student, one passport program, One student, one passport means the day the student come into USIM, they already set aside as part of their tuition fees a certain amount of money that goes into the kitty, so that when they are in the 4th year or the 3rd year, they already are ready with enough money to go via AirAsia, via Firefly, via whatever that around the region, so that they now can go further and learn about new culture. All right, so that's one way that can be done. But of course, if you allow the student to be creative, they can come up with their own way of how to do this. They can go beyond their whatever that's in the kitty. So at the university level, when I was there, I match whatever the student have. If they have like 500, then the university will match the 500. So at least they have $1,000 to now go wherever, you know. The students are very good. They just put where Asia is and they put Kuala Lumpur, and then they start the campus, and where that 1,000 ringgit will fly them anywhere around the world within that. And they can get very good prizes. Okay, hello, let's not talk. They are digital native, okay? They can solve the problem faster than us. But provided you give them a way of how now they can get the funding in order to go and learn about all this. So that's one way. The other one is global citizenship education, where we need to promote values on global citizenship, including empathy, respect, and a sense of responsibility, right? So we want to enhance, okay, this is the other thing. We talk about all of this, cultural intelligence and whatnot, but we didn't enhance internationalization at home. What do I mean by this? Okay. Malaysia is such a nice country that we respect all our foreign students. We give them a separate accommodation. It's called international house. Right? We give them separate because all the locals will live in this and all the international will live in this. Right? It's called international house. But we forget, tomorrow is about networking and collaboration. Tomorrow when you become an entrepreneur, if your friend is in Bangladesh and you are in Turkey, you can give a call. Can I now start opening a shop or whatever and have business with you now in Bangladesh? There you are friends. This is building the rapport and the networking, right? But we put all the international students from so many countries and we go around telling the world, you know, oh yeah, we are this one, this University X, and we have 87 international countries, students from 87 and all in our university, but we are not making use of that 87 countries that is there in the university. So basically, what I did at USM is to create a global village, meaning all the students will live, international or whatever, they will live in one place. All the accommodation, both local and international will be there, but the kitchen, you see, you can have Nigerians stay with Nigerian, no problem. But the kitchen, everybody has to eat. So we have a bigger kitchen so that all the students, when they cook and whatnot, they start to have rapport, they have to talk, they have to discuss, they can get to know each other, they build that relationship. Okay, this is why I come back to the word respect. If you tolerate, in the class, you have a lot of international students in the class, right? So you say, yeah, I know student from Africa, I know student from China, I know you go from Japan, you talk about, I know the student. Do you really know them? Unless you live with them, then you will know their everyday life. You will know how many times they pray, you will know what they need, you will know what kind of food, all this comes with respect and understanding. But if you just tolerate, it's what's happening in the classroom at the moment. Yeah, we have international students, but you don't know them at all. And you notice that some of the Malaysians can graduate, I can even challenge you, they will graduate without ever talking to an international student. Don't lie. Okay? You can go through life without even talking to an international student, despite 87 countries are actually localized in your university. So this is what kind of things I say, things have got to change. Tomorrow is about being a global player. And global player means you need to understand. So that's why I said creating of a global village in the university accommodation is one that I had done before. So you want the youth to engage in discussion and whatnot. You cannot solve global problem if you don't understand global culture. That's why I said cultural intelligence is very, very important. You have to understand different culture behave differently. And from the different culture, they also think differently. And therefore, the solution to your problem, from their point of view, is perfect. From your point of view, this is no-go. So again, both have to understand if we want to now move together, right? The next one is culture, networking, and volunteerism. So cultural awareness, as I said, sensitivity training, all this is very important. You need to address prejudice, stereotyping, and discrimination, all needs to be there. Most important, networking and international connection. I don't know how to tell even the young academics, you need networking and international collaboration now, because the more experience as a researcher, the more networking you have, not the least networking. So you need to now, when you invite guest speakers and whatnot, this is the other thing. Yeah? A lot of the times when you have, like today, you call me, so after this, everybody will take pictures with me or ask for my, if they ask lah. Basically, you are talking about vertical networking. That means you come to the conference, you want to talk to the speaker. You want to talk because you want, hello, the speaker has no time to get to know you. What you need to do is horizontal networking. Number one, in this conference, you need to get exchange cards with the people who are inside this room, so that you now have time. And then you go to coffee and you talk, you know, and I say, hey, yeah, I'm from here and I'm from there. And this is how you create the horizontal, because today, this person that you got to know is just a graduate student. But tomorrow, he becomes a minister in his country, or somebody big in his country. And that's where you build the networking and rapport already to move internationalization. All right. When you have a conference like this, what usually you don't want to go and pick up the speaker. Please be the liaison officer. This is my suggestion to young academics or even to postgraduate. Now, if your lecturers are so malas, they don't want to take care, you volunteer to take care of the international speakers or whatever. Because you have his time or her time from the time you pick up that person from the airport, 1.5 hours later to arrive at ISTAC or wherever the hotel is, you have his audience or his attention. Correct? Introduce yourself. What is it you're working? And you continue with that. He will remember you. And you will continue to build rapport. And in the car, there's so much question you can ask. And you can now actually become having more wisdom, more knowledge, because you have direct interaction with the speaker, just by being the liaison officer. But a lot of the time, most people do not want to do that. They think it's a waste of time. But if you really want to build networking, this is the time for you to do that. Okay? So, the other one, community engagement. IIUM is supposed to be international university, so and you are part of the global APUSEN, Asia Pacific University Community Engagement Network, with 95 countries that are there. Of course, the chair is USM. But bottom line, there's a lot that you can collaborate and share best practices, and again get to know people, and from there can even create entrepreneurial impact. Yeah. So, what then is nation building? This is almost finishing. Is a process of developing and strengthening the country or nation as a unified and cohesive entity, and basically it involves various efforts and activities aimed at fostering, this is the thing, with nation building, why we want to do community engagement, why we want to do all this is to provide us with a sense of identity, a sense of unity, and stability and well-being among the people within that nation. So it's a complex and ongoing process, but you must understand that the building up of the future minds, which is the youth and youth well-being, is therefore very important because it's intertwined with nation building. And how they can contribute to that, the youth can play a vital role in nation building by promoting sustainability. Of course, like I said, they participate in the cleanup drives, the tree planting, and this is the other thing. I want to discuss about tree planting. A lot of CSR, a lot of companies now say, oh, don't worry, I now plant 400 trees, right? Or the other company say, oh, I plant 4,000 trees. But the planting of the trees is done without thinking. Did you assess the forest where you plan to plant the tree? Because you are changing the ecosystem of that particular land area. So when you want to replant tree, first of all, you have to do a forest reassessment. How many, what are you disturbing by changing the kind of tree that you plant? So I hope that there'll be more thinking, more ecosystem thinking before you just say, oh yeah, I want to do CSR and plant trees, right? So entrepreneurship and innovation, this is the other one to encourage the youth to start business, social enterprise, and technology startups that can create jobs, drive economic growth, etc., and pursue research and development initiatives that can contribute to that. I want to share and challenge if any of the universities can do this. This is an example of translational research to cater for planetary health, and the fact that we are throwing plastic all over the place, right? Can we recycle, reuse plastic in innovative ways? As you know, Adidas and Nike have already changed most of those plastic to shoes and to shoelaces so that they can use now. But a Colombian social enterprise have developed a technique to make bricks out of this plastic. So you see that you have the youth in the community collect all the plastic, and then the plastic is now done by chemical ways to now change it to bricks. Can you see this? These are the bricks. These bricks are then put together like Lego, and then they build now the homes, and they build classroom, they build houses. All these are now basically cheap lah, but it can be done quite fast. So this is the combination of chemists and the people who are in architecture to now develop this. So this is a new way of thinking of how now, you know, we cannot live without plastic. I mean, to be fair, we cannot live without plastic. So what now do we do with this plastic? Because this plastic can last for 500 to 1,000 years. So this house is quite strong. Right? This house is quite strong, it can last very long. So this involves this approach, right, to change this plastic, and you involve the community, but while you're doing that, you're training the community about the problem with plastic, what danger plastic can do to the planet, and how now you turn it to something that you can now use, right? So youth can be engaged to work together to build this house. So I want to say that youth is a change maker. They are effective change makers if we can engage them and involve them in community and also in nation affairs. And the process of engagement with them and having meaningful talks will equip them with better problem solving, which will eventually help them become effective leaders. And of course, the discussion on global issues like healthcare, poverty, human rights, inequality, all that, when you discuss with them, this is the other thing. The youth always say to me, I worry about planetary health, but nobody wants to hear our voice, and nobody includes us in all of your activities. So this is where we say the youth needs to be given an opportunity, you need to hear their voice and be given the opportunity to now be part and parcel of nation building. So the youth who have participated, we found that if they are participating in these community talks, etc., to the community, usually more likely will become a decisive role leader in the later life. So what they think and what they decide today will not only affect their own lives, but also the nation and the rest of the world. So ladies and gentlemen, I end by saying that we need the whole of nation approach to actually streamline nation building today and also in the future, because, ladies and gentlemen, no one can whistle a symphony. It takes a whole orchestra to play it. So thank you very much. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Thank you very much, Honorable Professor, for gracing our event with your words of wisdom and the eye-opener facts about youth. Let me conclude a little bit. It's a bitter reality of today's world is that the world seems to be unready for educating the youth, and unpredictable challenges are booming like wild mushrooms everywhere. So this is a very worrying situation, and it's a real deal. This reminds me of a quote by Sayyidina Ali Karamallah Wajha saying that do not raise your children the way you parents raised you, because they were born for a different time. So again, the deal is real. Okay, let us continue with our next session. That is the dialogue session. So I therefore call upon Assistant Professor Dr. Ahmad El Mohammadi to moderate the dialogue session for today. The floor is yours, Dr. Ahmad.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. Wassalatu wassalamu ala ashrafil anbiya wal mursalin wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. Thank you very much, Professor Datuk, for the presentation. I would say it is a very inspiring because it gives fresh ideas and fact-driven, and of course is very global, in terms of the perspective. I wouldn't comment about what the Professor Datuk has presented. Right now, I would like to open for the question and also the exchange of ideas from the audience. So therefore, I would like to invite anybody on the audience to ask questions, And please, yeah, we have already here. Please introduce yourself and share your question straight to the point. You're welcome.
One of my mentors, Eugene, no title, no tantri, no dato, that kind of stuff, just a person. Student at IPSAS, but very mature. Thank you very much, Professor, for your wonderful delivery. I want to start with this, right? It's from a recent research paper, 2023, right? Malaysia has been documented as having the highest recorded power distance index in organizational context in any country, Hofstede 2015. If you start with this premise that we have a problem of power distance relationships, like how are we going to incorporate a lot of the ideas that you have said? This traverses all our society. Sorry, I speak with a bit of a British accent because I lived there for 20 years, right? It seems to traverse all sectors, from schools to universities to parliament. I've worked with parliamentarians. So this is a big fundamental, for me, a fundamental issue that needs to be addressed, number one. Number two, Professor, thank you very much for intergenerational. We have an expert sitting here, Professor Stephen Krauss, Prof. Abdul Latif, on youth-adult partnership. This is a conceptual approach which has been designed, conceived in the United States, but it's being transposed in Asia, where youth and adults work for mutual benefits, in equality, and it comes up with very, very impressive intergenerational learning, but also personal agency development learning, which is tremendously important, right? I was the first foreign national treasurer of the British student movement. In 1992, 1990 to 1992, Anwar Ibrahim actually sent some people to speak how it could be replicated in Malaysia. At that time, students ran student unions, 370 million US dollar turnover, 830 universities involved, and you had this youth-adult partnership where you had democratically elected students working with adults for a system which worked for everybody. So that's something which can be engaged, maybe used. I don't know what the student movement is now. They're too caught up with all these various other issues. So finally, I want to stop with hybrid. You mentioned internationalism. The concept of internationalism in the student, in education was actually resultant of an early day motion tabled in UK Parliament in 1991. Because in those days, we used to be called foreign students. And then it was changed by, and then it was accepted by the global. I could be wrong on this. But there are very interesting activities, like Professor Osman Barker. He's brought like huge academics to talk about the Zheng He travels around the world. We seem to be very focused on learning just from the West, right? Why don't we also learn from Asia, from Confucianism, from other different mindset development, which also has the conscious and the importance of heart? We have lost this in the West. We have no heart anymore. We are just purely driven by materialism. And that's why it's shocking for me to come back to Malaysia, when I came back to Malaysia, and I see families at dinner just sitting with their phones. You know, there's a family of 4, they don't talk to each other. They just sit with phones. So I will end with a story. I was responsible for World Bank project, Tun's time, whether you like him or not, in Timor-Leste, ICT for Youth Development. And we were like really, it was like brilliant for East Timor, the first just independent country, right? And we were like e-health, e-everything. And then later on, I went and spoke at Ewha University, Korea, South Korea. And one of the postgraduate students said, like, Mr. Eugene, you talked so much about the wonders of ICT. Have you thought about the dangers and the terribleness of ICT? This was 2005. I see it now in my real life with this phone as your life and no more humanity. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Okay. That's a lot of, thank you very much for the questions, a lot of questions. Not sure whether being a baby boomer, I can remember the one questions that has been asked. The power distance, the working together between the different generation in one group, and of course, allowing technology take over, which is something that we don't want to happen. Right? We don't want that to happen. Like, that is one of the things that we have a family breakdown. You know, Malaysia, I mean, in Asia, we have a different culture, right? Family is very strong with us. So, you know, having dinner, I mean, hello, let's not talk about the family. The husband and wife is also texting to each other, right? And you're living in one in the bedroom and one in the lounge watching TV, so you're just texting to each other. So all this is now happening, and we, whether we like it or not, I think we realize this, but we are still allowing technology take over to happen. And so that's where I think that at the end of the day, is how strong is that values that you have instilled. That's why I don't believe in values-based. I say values-infused education. That means if the values is just something that you talk about, but it's not part of the hardware, then it's no-go, because we are still going back to the lack of real values. Like, you know, we allow the technology to over. We know family needs to discuss, but we don't. And you find that your children now is going to Facebook, talking about their problem, and you have to stalk your children's Facebook in order to find out what's going on with your children. Isn't that sad? Because they are telling about their friends, 200,000 people are listening to their problem, but you as the mother and father have no idea about their problem. So this is happening, and this needs to stop. That's why I think the way we are shaping the minds of the future, education plays a very big role. To answer most of the questions that you have asked, to me, the answer is in education. How we shape the minds of the future, to me, is very important. And that's why I say, at the end of the day, with all the technologies that is coming, there's only two things left: people and values. So that's why we talk about humanity-centric, not just human-centric, but humanity-centric. Human-centric, we are talking about the individual. But right now, we live in a society that is very complex. So bottom line, with all the weather patterns and all this, is now humanity-centric rather than just human-centric. And we have to talk about nature-based, because we are living on the planet. And that's why we need to now be very aware, W-A-R-Y, that the solutions that we offer, is that taking care of the planet or not, or just solving an immediate problem. So that's why the thinking that we are training the postgraduates of tomorrow and the researchers of tomorrow is no longer about linear thinking, but systems thinking. Think of the bigger picture. I don't know whether I have the answers to all your questions, but I think the root of it is that if we now take care of the individual, then everything will also be in place. So that's why I say it's very important that we take care of the hardware of the individual, H-E-A-R-T-W-A-R-E, hardware of the individual, before we go now into digital mode. Because then, to me, more and more technology is going to come. Generative AI will come in big time, and that will control your life anyway. And we're already seeing this with Netflix. We're seeing this. Do you notice that Netflix will ask, Asma, would you like to see these movies? They already know from machine learning that this is the kind of movie that I will be watching, and they're already telling me what it's all about. And I will get, you know, even Shopee, Lazada, whatever, they will also be advertising things that you usually buy. They already understand you. And tomorrow, we're talking now about getting jobs. You don't have to apply anymore, because all the profile about you is already there in your Facebook and whatnot. And we now have algorithms that can actually now classify and profile you. So basically, employers of tomorrow, or even today, in big companies like MNCs and whatnot, are no longer saying, okay, come in for job interview. They say, okay, these are the specs that I want from the kind of people that I want to hire. Now tell me, you know, based on artificial intelligence and algorithm, find for me people who fit the spec. And this is where the algorithm will now find, and you now interview the relevant people rather than 700, 800 people coming in for the interview. You don't know whether they are best fit for the job or not. So this is the future, right? At the end of the day, you have to also train the people who are now employing, what are they looking for, and the people who are now going to be the workers, what are they looking for. So we have community engagements, like when we say, okay, have intergenerational work together. We even have the lecturer to work in a cluster, so that when they work in a cluster, they should have a cohort of senior, middle, junior, and postgraduate, so they're all in one cluster. That's what it's all about. But usually people don't tell you about this thing. They just say work in a cluster. Right? So this is where I think at the end of the day, whoever is the TNCPNI, whoever is the Vice Chancellor, need to now be able to tell people why you are working in a cluster, because of this intergenerational gap that is there, to have exchange between savviness in terms of technology and wisdom to come in between and help move the project together. All right, so to me, this is probably the way we want to go in the future, but it's very important that we educate the individuals today for tomorrow and educate them correctly.
Excellent, thank you very much. Yes, please welcome for anybody who want to, yes.
Hold on.
Follow up with Ali later on, yes. Yes, brother.
My God, somebody please go to the mic.
I'll start first if you don't mind. Okay. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. So speaking of learning, reading is undoubtedly an important component of learning.
Can you tell me who you are first?
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm Ahmad Ali from, I'm an undergraduate student from Kuliah of IKHS, studying political science. Reading is an integral part of learning, and as much as we have ebooks nowadays, it is undoubtedly so that it's not the most popular choice for especially people of my generation. Now, although it's accessible, but despite that, there's lack of sensual or sensory interactive interaction, so it's not generally preferred choice. So most of us will turn to audio-visual sources of learning, but is that considered as how do we redefine reading in the modern sense? Is reading a physical book or an e-book just plain text still, still needed, or can we somehow transform into a form of a recitation kind of thing? Because we have audiobooks, and reading audiobooks, despite we're listening to it, is still considered as somewhat as reading. And I know that those videos on YouTube, they're not sufficient for a proper reading. But how do educational institutions or institutions in general transform to shifting towards this more audiovisual form of reading, or is a physical book or an e-book still required in the end?
Yeah.
Your wisdom.
Thank you very much for the question. That also means that we, the lecturers, also have to change with the times, right? We need to understand that the current generation Z, they are multitasking. They can do multitasking, and you need your attention span is actually shorter than the goldfish, right? Because goldfish is 8 seconds and you are 7 seconds. So bottom line is that because the attention span is short, you need a lot of visual input, and basically now that's why I'm saying, that's why more people are on TikTok now, rather than YouTube, because TikTok is short, it's interactive, bam. What is it you want them to know? And you have to be very focused, so that because when you get that attention, that's what the learning that you want, right? So if we are going to now do this for the next, you see, books, I apologize to all the scholars and the philosophers, etc. But I personally think that we need to now move with the times. Before my age, we read. If I go on the plane, I don't have a paper. If I don't feel paper, I go crazy. I can't read things on the handphone. To me, it's too small. But you just go to any subway, on any train, You find an elderly person will read the newspaper and the young one will have the handphone. You go to any elevator, the old one will read what's there on the wall of the elevator. The young one don't give a hoot about what's there. They will be reading the handphone. Every information is coming from the handphone, correct? Well, we are already seeing a two generation in one area. So the generation, people like me who has to fill paper, and the generation that needs now from paper convert to e-books, is still the same thing. But to the Gen Z and future alphas and beta, this is no go. So to me, it's about learning. If you can, in a short time, learn about that from whatever that's all I want you to know. Because at the end of the day, it's about learning. Do you understand the concept or not? Can you use that concept now to do something with that, so that you can translate it into something useful that benefits humankind? As long as you understand that and you have learning being done, then that's okay. All right, because I think the studies have already been done in the United States that show that students in the United States, in the universities, actually they spend only 30 minutes reading. That's worrying, you know, to the baby boomers. My God, the students are only 30 minutes reading in their entire year one, you know. So what the hell are they doing the rest of the time? They're all on the video. The YouTube and whatnot is teaching. So that's how now, what you want to learn, I now listen to TED Talk. Because TED Talk is faster. Masterclass is faster. So there are many new alternative delivery modes of learning now. That is not the old way anymore. So the one most resistant to change is the university. Right? Remember, this is a baby boomer talking to you. Okay. So unless you have now that understanding that delivery modes need to be in alternative forms now, that the traditional way is already phasing out, because the universities are changing. We are changing. We are still in traditional, but a lot of universities now are adaptive, or marginal change, or radical change. Tomorrow we don't need university anymore. The value of the degree is no longer there. Right now, we're still talking 4 years to get a degree, but tomorrow you can do micro-credential and certification by Web 3.0. You don't need a university. Anyone who now acknowledges your ability can now hire you. This is mind-boggling to some of us in the hall, but at the moment now, that is where people of higher education need to understand that the traditional is not going to be there forever, that the traditional brick and mortar is not going to be here forever. We are going to change now to Web 3.0. And that probably will happen very fast. And again, we will be caught with the pants down if we are not ready as lecturers of the university. So that's why I say, whatever learning, alternative delivery modes that get you to learn the concept and so that you can understand, you can apply it, go for it.
Very, very radical idea.
It's not radical, it's going to be happening. It's whether you like it or not, that's all.
Yeah, very good. Yes, can I, brother over there, and then come back to you later on? Yeah, we have already here.
Assalamu alaikum.
Wassalam.
So my name is Muhammad Maruf Hassan. I am from Department of Usuluddin and Comparative Religion. Currently, I am doing my PhD. So my emphasis would be on your one topic. You were talking about 24 hours research lab. So like from my personal experience, what I see in IIUM, I mean, Kulia of Economics, I have seen like there are some researchers, they can stay for 24 hours. Kulia of Engineering also they have like that. However, when it comes to human science students, our cases, also ISTAC students also live in IIM campus. So I have noticed that we have next to Central Mosque, there are two, one is computer lab. I am here for 10 years, so the issue previously it was for boys computer lab and girls computer lab. So it was open until 8 until 10 at night. Nowadays they reduced to 8 until 5. So even 5 is 4:30 is closed already because the staff say we want to close fast. So anyway, and they open at a reading area that is open until maybe 8 to 5. So what happens, I mean I try to say this one again and again, but it doesn't work. I mean as a human science students, we want to study actually, but the common environment we do not get. And also the problem when I go back to my mahalla, frankly speaking, I try to read, but I cannot concentrate. But when I come to maybe library or maybe in that particular reading area, I can concentrate actually. So I was like feeling maybe this is Islamic ethics not to read at night after Isha or something like that. That's why I closed that this kind of environment. So if you could request them for emphasizing 24 hours lab for the human science students and ISTAC students in IIUM, that would be great. Thank you so much.
Thank you for saying that, but the thing is I don't have any power to do that. I'm a nobody, so you know, you have to bring it up to the dean's concern, etc.
Yeah, Datuk.
Sila.
Yes, like.
Thank you very much, Hamidul Abdul Hamid. Hamidul Abdul Hamid, academic fellow, a recycled academic fellow. And I have two questions basically, Datuk. Thank you very much for that quite encyclopedic presentation. My first question is the asymmetry between the development of science and technology and development in the usul fatwa sort of thing of hukum. So we were talking about Ileol and the different coding and getting in the end, looking in about 100 years time, it'd be more viable to have a bio machine, a human machine that only be based on sustainable food, and with that food, one arm can carry 100 kg, 100 kg. When all is no more there, then we need this sort of people. So it's genetic tweaking. The question is whether this is changing of Allah's creation, or is it trying to achieve laqad khalaqnal insana fi ahsani taqwim, the best of form. We have done it with selective breeding. Now I have the knowledge and the technology to do it through genetic tweaking. Okay, that's number one. Number two, thank you very much about community engagement. I would like to underscore this, and I will also call that for us, do not be discouraged by there's no money. I have been more than 20 trips to Cambodia where we do community transformation, not only engagement. And the only money that UAE give at that time from Census is about RM 1,500 to the trip. And every trip will cost you about 30 to 40,000 in terms of items, not the tickets. So I was telling our students that you want to volunteer, don't be a liability. So you can see how, mashallah, innovative the students were. They got the money, they got the things, and it ran. So I think this is the two things I would like to mention. That first question and this thing. Thank you very much.
So I will agree with you with number two first, because I think students are very creative, right? I think if you look at the private university, they have ways to get the money. Private university don't give that kind of funding. I mean, IPTA is expected that way, but this is where we also didn't teach our students very well regarding entrepreneurial mindset. So that if we now say, okay, minimal subsidy, but you need to now get to do all these things, so they can now set the motion for entrepreneurial mindset to find the money, to get crowdfunding, to do all those things that they are talking about. Essentially, that needs to also be trained, to be nurtured among our students and staff as well. So that subsidy mentality goes away, you know. But with IPTS, they are quite, you know, they are quite sustainable in the sense that they will be able to do it whether they like it or not. Whether you have the scientific power to now make the best fit human being, yeah? I also say if you can remove joint pain, you can remove fat genes, you can remove, I will be fantastic already, you know. But we have ethics. We have ethics. Despite the fact that we can clone human being, we cannot clone human being because we have ethics to now guide us. So even with the science and the ability of science and the ability of artificial intelligence, you know that tomorrow we are already going to go through brain-brain communication. I mean, right now you're talking about iPhone titanium, iPhone 15, all that rubbish now, because by 2 years from now, MIT is coming up with brain-brain communication. So that is another disruptive thing that we no longer need handphones. I only think about Prof. Aziz and I can communicate with you. So this is now brain-brain communication. Unable to think about it now, but people like me who are reading this, we need to understand what is going to happen in the future.
Robots now being trained about morality. They can now reason with you and whatnot. Tomorrow, as I said, I always question the librarians, where are you tomorrow? Because tomorrow we don't need library anymore. I mean, that student is still saying that he need library because he has not moved in terms of the times. But the thing is, if tomorrow you need to study, everything is between you and the computer screen, because everything you need now, all information is there. So is whether the university, the student just now, is whether the university have trained you to now move to digitalization mode. Because if you are still in the studying mode, you still need to go to the library. But tomorrow when you are in the digitalization mode, where you need now alternative delivery platform to now learn, as what this student is now saying, there's no need to go to the library anymore. And that's why I was just wondering, what is the library for? The library now becomes a learning space. That's what you are requesting, to have a learning space so that you can now go there and actually learn. And when you are learning, is you have also to discuss, because if you continue on your own, it's not good enough now. You need to collaborate, you need to discuss things so that you can now churn these ideas together. So the library becomes the learning space, no longer the space where books are kept. Because tomorrow, Google have everything now in Google, right? So they have digitized every animal, insect, flower, flora, fauna, anything in the world, all paintings in the world, they have digitized. It's now a matter whether they're going to make that information available to us or not. But it's going to be like, you know, that is the tomorrow. So museums, why do I need museums? Why do I need library? Unless this is back to human aesthetics. That we still need to see, we still need to admire, we still need to feel, we still need to see beauty about a flower, you know, that kind of stuff. So that's why we need balance. We need balance. So yes, technology can drive us to become a best fit human, but we need to have balance. That's why at the end of the day, I say there are only two things left: people and values. So values will guide us. Values means the ethics, integrity, all that, to guide us to make sure now that we are better human beings for the future and even for today. So that's what I want to share. A lot of things we can do, but the ethics and whatnot will stop us from becoming God. I think that's what we want to stop from being a God. Ya, kejap ada dah. Sila.
Yes. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum. My name is Nahid bin Jansari. I'm currently a PhD student in ISTAC. First of all, I would like to thank Professor Asma for the very enlightening and overarching speech. Just a simple question, two simple questions. Number one is in regards to the one that you mentioned on the prejudice, unbiased prejudice against women. How do you think we can or we should go about it? Whether in academia or in work-based community, etc. Also, number two, on the mentorship, intergenerational gap that we might want to have in the future. How do you think we should be going about that as well? Thank you.
The thing is, today I am in my speech today, I'm trying to make everybody understand that there is a problem called intergenerational gap. You know, I mean, usually when we discuss about this, now I'm on the LPU of UTM, right? So the TNC, HEPA, TNC, PNI, all will be presenting what is thing. And they, especially HEPA, they will be presenting already what is needed, you know. My first question is, did you discuss with the student? You know, because usually we have all these things. This is what you need to do, this is what you need to do, this is what you need to do, because we design all that, because inshallah you will be the best student that comes out from this university, correct? UPM pun sama lah, don't take anything, right? So you design all this from the student from your point of view. And your point of view, you are, well, if you're the boss now, you're probably Gen X, from your point of view. But you are now Gen Z, a different point of view, right? So therefore, that's why there is a need to allow now for voice. And usually, a lot of the senior don't like to hear the voice, right? They only want to hear whatever they do, good. Jangan kritik sangat. So ini yang menjadi masalah. So what we want to hear is that at the end of the day, let's have a dialogue on all these things. That's what this thing today is all about, right? A dialogue to have voices on both sides talking. Okay, so when we have the dialogue, then at least we will see. You understand that when we talk about community engagement, the current Gen Z is very into community engagement because they're very into impact. The one yang reluctant to do the community is the lecturer. Because they don't want to spend the time going to the community, they prefer to be in the room, to prefer to do literature review and do the publication, kenaikan pangkat is about publishing. That's why I say at the end of the day, the promotional exercise for the lecturer also have to change. If the promotional exercise remains the same, right, you will not see impact, you will not see community engagement by the lecturer. Yet the students like to do this. So, many things you have to balance both, right? About unbiasedness, okay, that's why I say, this is making people understand gender, biasness, diversity, inclusivity, what does it mean? A lot of people don't really understand because, HR during talent management also don't have this kind of program. The one that I talk about generation gap, how many HR talent management actually do generation gap punya program? Tak ada, right? So then the second thing is that about biasness, about gender, again, it's not part of the HR punya talent management because talent management is one size fits all. So that's why I say sekarang ni talent management has got also to change. I don't know if HR is listening, but I'm sure they are. So bottom line is that this also have to change and make talent management be aware about all these things that is now happening. Okay, if it is happening, sekejap, if it is happening, I know you're finalizing. I can see your hand, Prof. Aziz. So if it is there, all right, how do the women handle this? Right? How do the women handle this? You have to have a voice. But you have to state your voice in a very rational, calm, data-driven manner, right? Because if you go emotional-wise, then they will say, inilah wanita ni, dia memang very emotional, dida. So if things are not happening, please state, do not keep quiet. Because if you keep quiet, they still do not know the problem. But you have to state it in a very adab way, but data-driven, so that now you deal with data rather than being emotional about it. There's a lot more. I need another hour about women empowerment. Okay, this is Aziz, of course, never give me this opportunity for women empowerment. There's another one that needs to be looked into as well. Yeah, sebab ramai dah university student and postgraduate are women in the universities. It's not just IIUM, it's everywhere around the world. And yet this topic is not discussed. Right? Okay. For you, Hazrina, to think about. Sekejap, you are first kan tadi? Yeah.
Yeah, we have another one here. Okay.
And another one.
Okay.
Sekejap.
Let me go first.
Yeah.
Thank you, Prof, for, I think, a very inspiring talk that I would say very much related to us, especially from for us to nurture or for us to in nurturing the foundation year students. Yeah. So I am Shahrizad. I'm Shahrizad from CFS IIUM. Yeah. Okay. Now, Prof, I hope that my questions is related to what we discussed today. Right. So. Youth, especially during their study time, should encounter peers from various cultural backgrounds. So especially us from baby boomers, as mentioned by Prof just now. She's from baby boomers, but I am a bit younger. So, but still, I'm from the Generation X. And well, we experienced the time where during our what we call it the adolescence years, young time, that we experienced the stage of setting a stage where we encounter peers from various cultural backgrounds, especially in the university. They talk about library. We went to the library. We go and study in the library. We don't study alone in a room talking to the AI, but we talk to each other. But now at this stage, and and as far as I'm concerned, as person or people or even you know, a staff in the foundation studies, I mean foundation center, I believe that this is the stage where I mean the young age of foundation year students, yeah, this is the stage of setting the development of cultural intelligence. That is, to me, I mean to most researcher, feel it's actually a crucial competence in today's interconnected global society, where yeah, researchers believe that it is important in a nation development, yeah, to have the competency in CQ, yeah, for the nation development. But we all know that youth, especially Generation Z, engage very much with technologies. Yeah, they talk to AI, they work alone, I mean, they work just between them and the laptops. Yeah? So how do you think, Prof, that the technologies can maybe embed good values to the youth? Values especially that relates to cultural intelligence. And last but not least, Prof, thank you for the idea of the Generation Gap program. Yeah? So I think it's beautiful, and we will, inshallah, plan to do it in CFS. Thank you.
Yeah, the thing is right now, you already see what's happening with Gen Z. My question is, what are we going to do about Gen Alpha and Beta? Are we going to allow them to be like Gen Z, or can we now see that already this is happening, can we change? That's why I say education is very important, to make sure now when we instill values, when we instill all these good things that need to be there, you know, the whole idea is to change the perception of the next beta and the next alpha, whether, you know, don't allow for technology take over. That's why we balance Malaysian education with community engagement. That means, if I were to say radical change now, that means we don't need university anymore and whatnot. That is what the West is now saying as to where future higher education is going. But what is Malaysian education saying? That to me is very important, because we may not need to follow the West. We have our culture, we have our religion, we have spirituality to guide us. All that, knowing what is happening with Gen Z, are we going to allow that happen to Gen Beta and Gen Alpha? So that's why I say the education system now needs to address this, and that's why we start with humanizing education 4.0. Perkataan humanizing education is already there. The question is, are you listening about this, or is that, yeah, it's another blueprint, don't know, don't care. So, you know, when we start to have this kind of attitude, then the future generation is also lost lah, because they will go with the flow. But if we now make sure we pull them from the cliffside and actually now put them on the right track, what a true human being should be, you know, guided by whatever that needs to be there to make sure this is a good human being with good citizenry and whatnot that we want to have. A balanced, to me, balance between knowledge and character. You cannot say don't be savvy about technology. Yes, you have to, because you have to catch up with the times, and you are training the future generation to be a global player. Lucky you have to catch up with the times. We cannot say you know, but if you catch up with the time, look, you're savvy, you know artificial intelligence, but still you have values in you. So then when you use artificial intelligence, it will be for the good of humankind. Right? That's why I say, at the end of the day, you take care about the human, then the rest will fall into place. Right? So to me, you are the foundation study, then I think you better put things on the right track. Yeah. Thank you.
Assalamu alaikum. My name is Muhammad Abu Dagga from Embassy of State of Palestine. First of all, I would like to thank you very much for this very important lecture. I think it's the most important lecture for me to attend in the last year. And I would like to thank Prof. Abdul Aziz and ISTAC for this invitation. While you were speaking about the youth and the challenge, I was thinking about our youth in Palestine. Because I know in each society they have their challenge and structure. And I think on the top of what the youth challenge here in Malaysia or around the world, in Palestine we have more blockade, we have war, occupation, apartheid, discrimination. So I know the challenge in the front of our youth is more than challenging others. So in this regard, I would like to ask you two questions. First one, do the social economic structure of society, will it change the approach or outcome of what you conclude towards the challenge of each group of population or age in society? Secondly, regarding the engagement, community engagement. As you said, now the trends are the youth usually use only technology. They use iPad, mobile all the time, Facebook, TikTok, to follow up, to study, to train, to everything. How we can engage them with community while they are using maybe 5 hours or 10 hours daily, and each one not even they didn't talk to each other, or for father or for mother, they just speak text, WhatsApp. How we can encourage them to engage, to having community engagement.
Yeah.
And sorry for that. Lastly, I speak frankly, when I saw the CV and they introduced you, Dr. Asma, I was thinking will be about health, medicine. But true, it was about politics, security, strategy, environment, management, digital economy. This is, as you said, a systemic overview thinking of all topics, how they related together. And this is the way we should approach the issue in any country and in the world. Thank you very much. Thank you.
I think you already have answered all your questions. It's a whole ecosystem now, sir. Right? To me, when you want to nurture the future generation, you've got to make sure the ecosystem in the country is in place. That's why I talk about whole nation approach. It's not about university training, it's not about is certain ministry doing the thing, it's about whole nation approach, about the economy, the science, the technology, the whole values, education, the whole thing. So to me, it's now a whole nation approach, a whole systems thinking about the whole concept. It's not just about piecemeal. At the moment now, when we start solving things piecemeal, this is what happens. That only is short term, there's no resilience and there's no sustainability after that. You change the government, you change the thinking, you change leadership, everything changes again. So I think your whatever you have to say at the end of the day, what was the second question again? About community engagement. Okay, the students are mainly doing the computerization and whatnot. So that is why in higher education, if you look at the higher education, they have to come back to the university. Despite the fact that digitalization is happening, despite the fact that they can do online, they can do Zoom, we want them to come back to the university. COVID taught us many lessons. All right. Although COVID accelerated online learning, but there is a gap. The gap is the human-human interaction is not there. The sense of belonging is not there. The sense of creating wisdom is not there. So that's why we have to bring them back to the university. But while in the university, they can have courses that is hybrid. But this is where the university now has to think. While they are in the university, what are the things that you're going to make them gain wisdom, gain experiential learning? All that is part and parcel of, it takes a whole village to educate a child, correct? You cannot learn everything from the classroom. You need the whole environment and the whole ecosystem to nurture you to become a proper human being, right? So that's why we bring them back to the university. So when we bring them back to the university, they have to do community engagement, but they also have society. They also have other things that the students do that is very creative. They come up with new ideas to solve certain problems and issues. But what are we training them while they are here with us? I think that to me is very important. How we design the learning of educating a person to be a proper human being. So that is the time. Because if you don't do something about it, if you leave the students just like that, they will just learn whatever they can from the computer and end up becoming no cognitive skill, lack of human-human communication, and they don't even know it. They don't even know it that they are rude. You know, so because to them it's just a normal way, because the computer doesn't come back to you and say, you know, you're rude or anything like that. They will just go on from there. So to me now is a new challenge for the postgraduate, for the HR, for the student affairs. How do you now turn around the university to now cater for? That's why I say, think about the generation gap now. Think about the fact that the people who are bosses are not in that gap, and totally 180 degree. Yeah? The Gen X and the Gen Z is totally different, and so therefore now you cannot force a lot of things in your head to have that done. How now do you bring it together? That's why I say it's very important to bridge that gap, and how you bridge that gap will make a difference to how you turn around the future generation. Right?
Thank you very much. It's a very excellent presentation, Prof. And I want to thank you for that. Please give a round of applause to... We have learned so many wisdom this morning, this afternoon, and actually what we are doing is overcoming the intergenerational gap, I think. We need to learn from the wisdom of the elders, but at the same time, we also need the vision and the energy of the young people. I think when we combine these two forces, just like what the Prophet did during his time, the wisdom of the elders and the energy of the young people, we can generate or we can produce changes and transformation in society. Thank you very much again, Prof. And I hand over to the MC.
Okay, that was a very interactive and interesting discussion, and we sincerely thank both Professor Emerita Datuk Dr. Asma Ismail and Assistant Professor Dr. Ahmad El Mohammadi for your sharing and for capturing the discussion so perfectly. I kindly request Prof. Emerita and Dr. Ahmad to remain on stage for the souvenir presentation. May I now invite Professor Dr. Muhammad Nizar Hamidon, Chairman of the UPM Council of Research Institute, University Putra, Malaysia, accompanied by Professor Dr. Abdul Aziz Birgood and Professor Dr. Haslinda Abdullah, to be on stage for the souvenir presentation session. Kindly be seated, distinguished guests, as we will continue with our next agenda. Ladies and gentlemen, now the precious moment has come, which is the MOU signing ceremony between International Institute of Islamic Thought and Civilization, ISTAC-IIUM, and Institute for Social Science, University Putra, Malaysia. I respectfully now invite Professor Dr. Abdul Aziz Birgood and Professor Dr. Haslinda Abdullah to be on stage for the signing ceremony. And I'm honored also to welcome together Honorable Professor Emerita Datuk Dr. Asma Ismail with Professor Dr. Muhammad Nizar Hamidon to witness the MOU signing ceremony. Now, with the recitation of Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim, we will start the MOU signing ceremony. And now we invite Professor Dr. Haslinda Abdullah, representing IPSAS UPM, to present a souvenir to ISTAC-IIUM. Thank you, distinguished guests. You may please be seated down. Before we adjourn to our luncheon session, we would like to invite distinguished guests to step down for the photo session with the audience. Everybody may stand and forward. To thank the distinguished guests and all participants for your presence today. And we invite all distinguished guests and all participants for lunch at the banquet hall. We will conclude our program today with Tasbih Kifara. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.